But let's move over to that football. We're going to talk about Alabama. We're going to talk about the national title game right now. And then, more importantly, Derrick Henry. And where can we see him going in the NFL draft? But let's start with the national championship game. We mentioned it to start the podcast, and I'm going to say it here. This is probably the best national championship I have seen since Vince Young beating the Trojans. Like, this is the national championship where if you were sitting there going, well, what if the Trojans would have won? That was this game. That was this game. Because Deshaun Watson was Vince Young. And he just couldn't do it. Plus, there was a special teams play, 2 special teams plays that sealed the game for Bama. The onside kick right into the breadbasket. And then Kenyon Drake going, whoop, right around the corner, tutty.
We saw ourselves a really good game. We knew we were going to see ourselves a good game because Clemson and Alabama had been so good all season long. You had 1 and 2. 1 and 2 right there in your national championship game. We saw everything that they had to offer. They left it all out on the field. That is for certain. And that's what we've been waiting to see out of one of our top games here at the end. Didn't see that in our semifinal games. Didn't see it in Oklahoma, Clemson. Didn't see it in Alabama, Michigan State.
That was just a blowout.
We just saw dominance from one side, not the other. In this game, this national championship game, we saw good football. We saw good plays. You know what we saw? We saw coaches needing to strategize to win. We saw coaches having to make some plays. And we saw coaching, I think, at its finest. Trying to outduel the other. And we saw that with Nick Saban calling that onside kick.
And I'm glad you brought up that onside kick because it was after the game. I don't even remember if it was immediately after the game, if it was the day after, but I'm watching ESPN and they're talking with Alabama people, and here's how they laid it out. Apparently Alabama has it set to where the special teams coach or whatever kind of just monitors that and goes, okay, we got a shot at it. When they have the opportunity to do it, he just goes over to Nick and goes, okay, boy, the opportunity's there. And then it's Saban's call if they do it or not. And that was just one where Saban said, he's like, you know what? It was a tie game. We needed something because he's like, our defense was tired. Our defense was tired chasing around Watson in the backfield. We needed something. And Griffin kicked one hell of a ball. And that was just it.
And I want to go now. You brought up Deshaun Watson. Alabama won this game, but do not take one damn thing away from Clemson because they played their hearts out and their asses off. And I will tell you what, Deshaun Watson was the toughest quarterback Alabama went up against all season long. And I'll tell you what, they went up against a guy like Dak Prescott, who I said in our, I think, previews way back when, I'm looking for Dak. He's going to have a good season. He had a good season, but he wasn't what he was last year. He's supposed to be a guy who can move around in the pocket and, get going, scramble, all this stuff. They took him down. They took down Dak Prescott when they played Mississippi State. It was a joke. Deshaun Watson, all over the place. And he tired them out. He tired out that Alabama defense. And it's not because Alabama defense, they were, they're not doing enough.
No, it's because Watson's good.
It's because that offensive line was doing more than enough to hold off Alabama's defensive front. And Watson just knows what to do with the football, knows how to make plays. The kid is special, and he's just a sophomore. He is good.
He's coming back.
Watch out for him.
He's coming back, and that's a reason why maybe in ESPN's way too early 2016 rankings that Clemson was number 1 over Alabama. If you want to hear what ours are, you got to wait until next week. We're going to post those maybe Monday or Tuesday. However,
Ricky's going to be happy with me. I actually sent him mine. He told me to send them, and I sent them.
He sent them, and it was a full 25. That's a big thing for Brandon, especially with maybe a way too early top 25 for next year, where Brandon's sitting there going, we're already looking to next year. Can we just take in what we just saw? But the big thing for Alabama is they're losing a key piece to their team. The Heisman winner, the guy who had 3 touchdowns, 158 yards on 36 carries against the Clemson Tigers, Derrick Henry, is going to the draft. I am asking you, Brandon, right now, Mel Kiper put out his first mock draft. We're going to wait to see what Mark Weber here at MVP has to say about his next week. If you're setting up a mock draft, where does Derrick Henry go? Is he in the first round?
Well, I first want to say that there were a lot of people out there while and after Stanford was playing Iowa, said, Christian McCaffrey, man. Christian McCaffrey should have been.
The guy in the background.
Christian McCaffrey had like 200 yards. He should be the Heisman. Are you kidding me?
He did it against Iowa.
What I'm saying is that Derrick Henry showed again, not just some good game. He showed again that he was worthy of the Heisman. He was the right pick. He was the right one. 150 yards and 3 touchdowns in your national championship game.
And this was coming back from a 75-yard game against Michigan State. Yeah, he had 2 touchdowns in that semifinal game, but he only had 75 yards in that game on 20 carries.
Yeah, I think that those people who said, nah, should have been Christian McCaffrey, stick a fork in it, because McCaffrey is good. I'll give that to him. But Henry is something special.
Can we be honest? The only reason McCaffrey was in the Heisman discussion is because he broke that record. He broke Barry Sanders' all-purpose yard record, and that put him in. Now, I'm not saying he's not a great player. I'm just saying when you break a Barry Sanders record, you might be put into the Heisman discussion. And I'm going to go one step further, Brandon. Not only did Derrick Henry prove that he was the Heisman over McCaffrey, Deshaun Watson basically said in this game, I know he didn't get the W, but he basically said, hey guys, next year's Heisman, put me on the list. I'm winning it. I think Deshaun Watson has the best chance to win the Heisman next year.
Yeah, I think he's got to be a front runner to start things off. Mm-hmm. He's got to be. But Ricky, going back to your question,
where does Henry go in the draft?
Not to get too far off, but I'm going to say early to mid second round.
So he's not a first rounder in your mind?
I'm going to say no, because there's probably teams who are out there looking for some other things maybe before him. Right. But I want to say that I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think that that's a bad thing that he maybe doesn't go first round, because you don't need your guys to go first round. Where'd Tom Brady go? What round did Tom Brady go?
6th.
There you go. Where's Tom Brady at? So see, that's the thing, is I think so many people get so worked up with where they go in the draft is, okay, yeah, your first couple of guys, they're going to get a lot of money. What's Jamarcus Russell doing with his money right now? The Jamarcus Russell hustle? Drinking that purple drink? I mean, who knows what the hell that guy is doing? We don't want to know. He's probably being a fat ass on his couch. Mm-hmm. He was a first-round pick. Tom Brady, going back to that, a 6th-round pick, and he yet again is going deep into the playoffs. So see, too many people put too much stock in drafts and draft placement and draft where they are, all that kind of stuff. Not that important to me, because you get a guy who's going to be good. Doesn't matter where you get him. And you know what? Most of the time, you're going to get your diamonds in the rough, your steals in the later drafts. That's my opinion. But I think Derrick Henry, I could see him as a beginning second rounder. Sorry, I couldn't.
So he's going
think of how to say.
So you're saying 2nd or 3rd? Like third at the lowest.
I would say third at the lowest. You know, I could definitely see some teams going for running back. Then we're gonna definitely see teams go for quarterback. We're definitely gonna see teams go for quarterback, and I think we're gonna see teams go for O-line in the first round.
Here's what I'm thinking right now with Derrick Henry, and I'm gonna throw Ezekiel Elliott into this conversation because you have to, because it kind of goes to the next the question that should have went before that was, if you're a team. Let's say the Broncos at 29, maybe the Seahawks at 26, and you're thinking about a running back. Do you take Zeke or Henry? Do you go with Zeke, who it's like, man, look at the games he's had? Or do you say, this guy Henry, he's the Heisman. Do you see the national title game? This kid's good. And to me, if we're going to look running back in the first round, 3 teams as of right now that are going to be looking maybe at the running back position. Number 1, the longest of shots, the Texans at 22. Only because Arian Foster, I think you got to move on from him. He's been injured way too much. They already
came out with a report today that said that Houston most likely will be releasing Arian Foster.
Yeah, you got to move on from Foster. The longest shot only because they could go quarterback, like Mel Kiper has them. However, they could go running back. Number 2. Now, it all pans out with what happens with Marshawn Lynch. But if Marshawn Lynch does not return to Seattle, I know they got Thomas Rawls. But could they say, hey, you know what? I don't know if Rawls is going to be that well. Let's try to trade Rawls. Let's draft a running back. You know what? Scratch that. They're the longest shot. They're 3. Texans are 2. To me, the team that's the most likely to draft a running back in round number 1, the Denver Broncos. Because is C.J. Anderson the future? Is Ronnie Hillman the future? When you can get a guy like Ezekiel Elliott or Derrick Henry, I think right now Zeke is higher on draft boards and will be higher on draft boards. Derrick Henry, though, should not be discouraged. I'm going to throw some names out there for you, Brandon. And with these names, you can take them or leave them where you want. You can say it's a good thing or you can say it's a bad thing. I'm just throwing these out as these are out of the top 25.
So don't shoot the messenger, is what you're saying. Okay. Yeah.
Out of the top 25 all-time rushers in the NFL, I looked through who was not taken in the first round. The first one coming in at number 23 had 10,643 yards in his career. Ricky James Waters was drafted in the second round by the 49ers in the 91 draft. Then coming in at 20 with 11,241 yards, played from 1997 to 2006, played most of his years with the Cincinnati Bengals, second round pick, Corey James Dillon. Then you have a little bit above him, number 14th with just over 12,000 yards. I'll throw another one in there. You've got Thurman Thomas, drafted by the Bills in the second round in the 88 draft, but Frank Gore, third rounder by the Niners in the 05 draft, and coming in, 4th all-time leading rusher at 14.1 thousand yards, played 20 years from 95 to 05. No, 10 years. I was right. My math was right. He's a Hall of Fame finalist from 11, inducted in 12, third round by the Patriots, played with the Jets, Curtis Martin. You can take those names, leave them, take them or leave them, but some of those names, that's good company. So just because you're not an AP, you're not a Steven Jackson, you're not a Walter Payton, a Barry Sanders, an Emmitt Smith, an LT drafted in the first round, doesn't mean you're not going to have a good NFL career.
But who's to say? You just said that you're not an LT, you're not Adrian Peterson. Who's to say that you are? You're just not drafted in the first round.
Yeah, I mean, look at Curtis Martin. He was drafted, what did I say, third round, and he was the fourth career leading rusher with just over 14,000. Yeah, he was a third rounder, 74th overall in 95 by the Patriots.
Yeah, you know what? Sometimes all you got to do is be drafted. Just get yourself drafted, make a splash. Another team, you had talked about a couple of teams earlier on, a team that I think could be looking for a running back, even though I said in a podcast previously that they have a guy who's a rookie there, David Cobb, the Tennessee Titans. They had a really poor running game this year and used a couple of different running backs. I think they could possibly be in the market for a running back. So there you go.
Well,
there's another one that you can look at.
That fits your second round. However, when it's the first pick of the second round, technically this year, because the Patriots don't have a pick, that'd be first-round talent. Because we only have 31 first-round picks, so he'd be taken then at 32 overall, which in most years, that's the last pick of the first round. But go ahead.
I was just going to say one more thing before we get into our last segment.
Okay.
Is that do you think that anything that happened with Ezekiel Elliott and him calling out his coach and stuff like that,
No.
and how if he gets, if he doesn't get his way, if he doesn't get the football,
No.
he'll get upset and he'll be crabby in the locker room, whether to be to the media or not, that he'll be a tough teammate to work with. Do you think that has any effect on any team looking at him?
As of right now, like right now in the draft process, no. Ask me after the combine. The reason being is these kids are going to get the microscope put over them. They are going to have to answer every question. Hey, why did you do this dumb mistake when you were 5 years old? That's what they're going to
Like a politician.
Why did you talk back to your mama when you were 5 years old? That's what these guys are going to have. They're going to have to answer everything.
I say the reason I asked that is because that one was something that unfortunately was brought
a huge
up
deal
to the media on TV. People saw it. People talked about it
After
for a
the Michigan
whole
State
week
loss.
after. So not that I necessarily think that it will affect him, but you just never know of the things that could come back to haunt you in some way or another. How matter how big or how small it may have been. All you need to do is have it be big in someone's eyes, and it could hurt you.
The way I see it right now is these kids have not had the opportunity to talk to teams yet, like make their case, tell their side of the story. After we hear that, then it's kind of like, okay, this is where it's going to go. But he has the opportunity to put that behind him in a good way.